Aloha, everyone. I'm Rick Kirkham. I'm an in-home tutor here in Honolulu, Hawaii, covering all of Oahu. I am, I am, as far as I know, the only tutor on Oahu with ADHD, specializing in students with ADHD, but I teach a lot of subjects. So I'm a dual certified teacher from Illinois originally and a certified substitute teacher here. I can already hear my lisp a little bit. I'm sorry. I got that. Well, we don't need to go into that. But anyway, today's lesson, we're going to do a sixth grade algebra lesson, isolating the variable. And I did this with a tutoring student over in Kaimuki, I believe it was. Yeah, in fact, there it is in my article right there. I was in Kaimuki doing this. And I realized that, with parents trying to help their kids with math and everything, I should go ahead and try and share this, although best solution is just hire me, obviously. I can't help people remotely. I would rather, if I'm on Oahu, I would rather make a house call so I'm working right in the same environment where my student has to study. But anyway, today's math lesson, we're going to solve -6 divided by y minus 5 equals 7. Okay, the first thing you should know is it doesn't matter if it's -y or -6, and we're going to be using those. We're going to be changing that around later on. And we need to solve for y, which means we need to get everything else on the other side of the equal sign. I personally like to put the variable that I'm trying to solve on the left side of the equal sign. I find it easier for me. I think most people do. So we're going to be using the opposite of a thing called PEMDAS. And what is PEMDAS? PEMDAS is the order of operations in mathematics. So for PEMDAS, we have parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And the little phrase that the students learn is, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Now, to isolate the variable, we're going to use SADMAP. I'm the only teacher that I know of that ever gave this a name, but we basically do the opposite of PEMDAS to isolate a variable. So we do our subtraction first and then exponents and multiplication. But anyway, you get the idea. So the other important thing is do not skip a step, especially if you happen to be one of my ADHD students. We need to kind of see things in the pattern. And so don't skip a step. Here's the equation that we're going to be working on. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the -5 into a plus -5. So to do that, we're going to change the sign, add a line. And I learned that little phrase watching a video here. I think this is from PBS Math Kids, if I'm not mistaken. In the article that I wrote this on, there's a link to the video. And of course, feel free to go to the link and read the article itself and watch the video. I found them to be helpful. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take this -y divided by 6. So that's the fraction, right? Think of those fractions as being divided by. So -y divided by 6 minus 5 equals 7. We're going to make that -y divided by 6 plus -5. Same exact thing, but now it's going to be easier to deal with. Reason it's easier to deal with is because I can take, well, in fact, I think below here I show an example, okay? So with addition, I can take 1 plus 2 equals 3. However, 1 plus 2 does not equal 1 plus 2 plus 1. But 1 plus 2 plus 1 does equal 2 plus 1 plus 1. Okay, so you getting the idea? You got to do the same thing on both sides. Just like when we take a negative and turn it in, or take a minus, turn it into a plus, you got to do something with that. You got to add something to that. And to do that, it's not done on the other side of the equation. It's done right there within that same side of the equation. So you're taking minus a positive and just making it plus a negative. That's all you're doing. Nothing actual confusing about that when you think about it, but now you can switch things around. Okay, you can take 5, whoop, that's my phone. You can take 5 minus 6, but you cannot make it, well, let's do it this way. You can take 5 minus 4, but you can't switch it around. You can't take 4 minus 5, but you can take 5 plus negative 4 and then switch that around to negative 4 plus 5 and get the same answer. Understand? Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to be adding, we have to get rid of this negative. If we're going to add negative 5 here, we got to get rid of this plus negative 5, right? So to get rid of this, once again, SAD map. That's negative 5. We're going to add positive 5. And we got to do that over here on this side as well. Okay, so take a look at that. So now we got negative 6 plus negative 5 plus 5 equals 7 plus 5. So what we did was we added 5 on each side right here. So the equation is still balanced out. Okay, I can take a million, gazillion, trillion plus 1, and that will equal a million, gazillion, trillion plus 1. Same thing. Okay, so let's work it out. We got negative 5 plus 5 equals 0. 7 plus 5 equals 12. And that gives us negative y divided by 6 equals 12. So we've gotten rid of that 5 now. Okay, and I think I already mentioned this, but that fraction line is called a division bar. So think of that as meaning divided by. You've heard me saying this already. So instead of saying, like, when you're thinking about solving this in your head, think about that line. Instead of saying negative 6 or negative y over 6 equals 12, think of it as negative y divided by 6 equals 12. Then you're going to get yourself an answer. Okay. All right, let's take a look at that. I'm not going to bother reading that whole paragraph, although there's probably some good stuff in there. I mentioned this earlier. Negative y divided by 6, or negative y over 6 this time, equals 12, is the same thing as y over negative 6 equals 12. You can move that negative sign to the numerator or denominator. That's the top or the bottom. And it's going to give you the same exact answer. So we're going to do that. And that will help us to skip a step where we won't have to multiply by negative 1 over negative 1 to change that, or multiply each side by negative 1 depending on where we are in the equation. So now we got, and I'm not sure if I'm showing it here or not, but yeah, right here. We're going to take this y divided by negative 6 instead of negative y divided by 6. There you go. Okay, but we still have a 6 to get rid of. So once again, we do the opposite. So what is the opposite of division? Multiplication. Very good. So we're going to multiply negative 6 on each side of the equation to keep it balanced. So that will give us y divided by negative 6 times negative 6 equals 12 times negative 6. Okay. So remember, and I'm not sure if I'm about to say that here. Remember, there's what I used to tell my middle school students, there's a secret ninja, invisible one, in front of all variables. Okay, so that means, and I do the same martial art moves and stuff like that. I've got a martial art background and the kids would pay attention. So that means that we got y divided by negative 6 times negative 6 equals 12 times negative 6 is actually 1 times y, or 1y, divided by negative 6 times negative 6 equals 12 times negative 6. Okay, so for now, forget about the y. And look at this. We've got 1 over 6 times 6 equals 12 times negative 6. Or 1 over 6 times negative 6. 1 over negative 6. You know what? I'm going to keep this in here and not redo it so you can see what happens when you're trying to do a video. We got 1 over negative 6 times negative 6 equals 12 times negative 6. So here's another tip about fractions. I can take that same equation and I can make that 1 over negative 6 times negative 6 over 1. And I show that to my students because it's a lot easier to visualize multiplying that, because you just multiply straight across, right? And what happens when you multiply 1 over negative 6 times negative 6 over 1? You get 1. So anytime you flip a number, which is called the reciprocal, anytime you flip it, you get 1. So once again, a million gazillion trillion times 1 over a million gazillion trillion equals 1. Okay, in fact, I did that example right here. Okay, now a variable next to a number means multiply, by the way. So this y times 1 divided by negative 6 times negative 6 divided by 1 equals 12 times negative 1. It sounds confusing when I say it, but just look at it, okay? Very, very clear when you look at it. Remember that asterisk is a multiplication sign. Okay. So since one divided by negative 1, or 1 divided by negative 6 times negative 6 over 1 is 1, and 12 times negative 6 equals negative 72, we are left with y times 1 equals negative 72, or y equals negative 72. You did it. You solved the equation. Great job. Okay, now let's solve it step by step without too much explanation so you can see the process. This is especially helpful for my ADHD students when helps us to see the patterns. Uh, People with ADHD are really scary good at seeing patterns. We see patterns better than the average person, and we can use that to our advantage when we do math or English or anything else. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Negative y divided by 6 minus 7 equals 7. Negative y divided by 6 plus negative 5 equals 7. Negative y divided by 6 plus negative 5 plus 5 equals 7 plus 5. Okay, now we know that negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 7 plus 5 is 12. Now we got, that leaves us with, whoop, let me do that again there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Negative y divided by 6 equals 12. And now we're going to switch them. Same exact equation. We're going to switch the negative sign to y divided by negative 6 equals 12. All right. Now, so that gives us y divided by negative 6 times negative 6 to get rid of that 6, right? To get rid of negative 6. And that equals 12 times negative 6. Now, so because we're getting rid of this here, negative 6 times, or 1, basically 1 over negative 6 times negative 6 over 1, and that's going to give us 1. So now we're left with y divided by 1 equals 72. What is any number divided by 1? That number, right? So now we get y equals negative 72. You did it. And that's the whole thing. So if you don't want a tutor and you're more of a do-it-yourselfer type person, check out these books here. I've got a link to them on the article. Article, once again, is right up here. That is an affiliate link. I make a few bucks if you order from me. If you want to show your appreciation to this article that way, feel free. And that's about it. So if you need a tutor and you like my teaching style, then consider hiring me. You can text me. By the way, Mainland, U.S.A., text only, please, because of the time difference if you want remote help for your child. But like I said, here on Oahu, I'd much rather make a house call. And I want to talk just a couple minutes about the superpower of ADHD. Okay, I see it in my students' eyes. Oh, I have ADHD. I can't do that. Yes, you can. You can do it. And once you harness the power of your ADHD, you can do anything you want to, and you will be unstoppable. We see patterns better than the average person. We have 5 or 6 things flitting around in our brain, whereas the average person has 2 or 3. I use that 5 or 6 things to troubleshoot computers, and I made a successful business out of working with computers before I changed my primary business to tutoring. We see, like I say, we see patterns better than most people. We're even more empathetic than the average person is. But learn to use that. That's my specialty too, is giving you the teaching techniques that you need so that we could use our enhanced abilities to become even better than the average person at what we are doing, whether it's mathematics or English or just about any other subject, we can find a way to use our abilities to do really well. All right, that's the end of my little speech, I guess. But in any case, God bless you. Have fun in school. Use the school to improve your future. And have a great day. Aloha.